We also have now launched a program specifically focused on youth, which is called The Future is Saudi. And in a society like Saudi Arabia, I think it is important that we as the private sector provide meaningful opportunities for youth to acquire both the practical skills as well as technical skills in order to be successful and ultimately also help drive that transformation that is shaping up here in Saudi Arabia. The Future is Saudi program aims to target in total 12,000 young Saudis. These could be graduates from universities, but also graduates from vocational schools, and help them get the required practical skills and technical skills within the private sector. We are one of the founders of that program, and again, I think is a clear initiative that PepsiCo has launched, and I think it underlines our commitment to the kingdom, but also it underlines our commitment to the transformation here in the kingdom. And then just one other example, because I'm also cognizant of time, but is a program that we've launched in partnership with the Atlantic Council, which is called Women Entrepreneurs, and it's short, it's WIN. And this is a program, again, focused on female entrepreneurs, helping them set up their business successfully, providing both financial support as well as coaching and mentoring. And again, I think is a program that helps both drive entrepreneurship here in the kingdom, but it also helps, I think, further drive female empowerment within the kingdom. And then the last example that I'd like to highlight is a youth hackathon that we launched earlier this year across the Middle East and North Africa. So this is we call it the Arab Youth Hackathon. It's focused on, again, young entrepreneurs with a very specific focus on sustainability. At PepsiCo, we take sustainability very seriously, as also embedded in our PEP Positive strategy and vision. And the Arab Youth Hackathon has invited youth across the Middle East and North Africa to come up with great solutions that help us create a better future for planet and people. And think about solutions around water use reduction or water saving. Think about solutions that help us drive regenerative agricultural practices. Think about solutions that also help us drive a reduction in emissions across our value chain or across a broader ecosystem. So these are just a couple of examples that we have, both in terms of how we're driving female empowerment, youth empowerment, and as I said, I think it's a critical agenda item and within the overall Vision 2030, and we're very proud to be part of that.
No, absolutely. There's no other way but to have the youth and women participate in the process. And it's quite evident in what you've just mentioned in terms of the investment that is put there. And I think that's a great segue to you, Nawal. As a senior female business leader in the financial industry, you have experienced firsthand the transformation of the ecosystem to become more inclusive and diverse. What do you put the success of the transformation down to, and why is it important to encourage women and young people in your industry?
So thank you so much, Ragad, and thank you very much to PepsiCo and to FII for hosting us. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with my esteemed panelists. So maybe to start off, I think when we talk about diversity, when we talk about inclusion, I think it's really important to take a live example, look at where things were and how things have become. The best lessons are learned from history. So I entered into the workforce in 2011. At that point, just to give you a flavor, female participation in the workforce was around 15%. Wow. The job opportunities for women in the kingdom were limited. I am Saudi, born, raised, educated. And I was part of the first graduating class from Prince Sultan University in the field of finance. So I had graduated. Job opportunities were limited to specific sectors, and I really had an ambition and drive to want to grow, to want to be part of transformation, to want to give women a voice within the corporate world and environment. And this was why I think I chose a career in consulting, because it gave an opportunity to be able to, have mobility within different regions and work within a multinational firm that, had diversity on their agenda. Following that, I joined the Saudi Exchange in 2015, and I think it was both a combination of luck and also, I think, you know, hearing rumors that there was a national transformation program that was going to be announced, which was announced as the vision in 2016. So the vision outlined specific targets for women's participation in the workforce, and it was to bring women's participation from 22% to 30%. I think it's absolutely phenomenal that as of last year, that number's at 37% today. And it just gives you a flavor that now you see women in various sectors. You see them in the aviation industry, you see them in food and beverage, you see them in the financial industry, you see them, you know, across various sectors in the ecosystem. And I think women bring a really important role and have significant value in terms of bringing fresh perspectives, challenging the status quo, and funny quote is Christine Lagarde once said, if it were Lehman sisters instead of Lehman brothers, the world would probably look a little more different than it is today.
It's probably true.
So, and at the Saudi Exchange, we're championing this, and it's at the forefront of our objectives. And when I joined in 2015, we were just 2 people on the team. I was the only female in the business, in core business. This team has now, I joined as a chief analyst. This team has now grown to 15 people, which I happily and proudly look after. And my team is split between 50% male, 50% female. And organization-wide, we're about 30% now. We are chaired by a female, Ms. Sara Sahimi, who's the chairman of our holding company's board, Saudi Tadawul Group. So inclusion of women, diversity, I think is extremely, extremely important. It's something to be talked about. It's something to be showcased. And I think it can display significant value within any organization. Another element which is extremely important is developing talent. So many people within the Saudi Exchange have started out as fresh graduates and have grown within the company. You see these people now heading departments, holding executive positions and whatnot. And this is really due to a few things. One, today, as Eugene mentioned, the Saudi population, 60% of it is under the age of 30. So we have a role to play as the heart of the financial sector to provide job opportunities, to promote financial literacy, and to promote growth of talent. So we developed a graduate development program, which was established in 2018. Something that many people don't know, we're actually kind of a small company, the Saudi Tadawul Group. We're just about a little over 400 employees. To put things into perspective, we hired, since the launch of the graduate development program, over 85 graduates.
Wow.
And these have all been trained, provided courses, mentorship, coaching, and you really see that talent kind of developing within the organization. And I think that it's extremely, extremely important for other organizations as well to, put this investment into your people, and also promote localization, promote, diversity, because it brings different things into perspective.
No, absolutely. And I love what you said there about women empowerment as well. It has to be talking about more. It has to be showcased. And I can't think of a better example when it comes to that than the Ben Ali Foundation. So honestly, it's quite evident just by attending last year's, or this year, I keep on saying last year, I think it was this year's Islamic Arts Ben Ali in Jeddah. The core team it's evident that it's really driven by this female energy. Either they're from the core team or curators. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think 70% of the core team are female, and 50% of curator team are also women. Right? And
Yes.
I can't stop by wondering, was that intentional, a strategic approach, or organic, and why?
Thank you, Ragad. And first of all, thank you PepsiCo, thank you FII for hosting us today. But actually, thank you again, PepsiCo, for being our partner at the Islamic Arts Biennale. it's really refreshing to see a company look into culture, and it only shows how progressive you are in kind of including it, which I think is a very important component for a lot of, especially for private sector, to include culture in everything. But so, anyways, thank you, Pepsi. Definitely, it's not on purpose. But like Nawal was saying, when I graduated and moved back to Saudi from Paris, I also didn't have that much opportunity to work in arts and culture in the arts sector. It was very limited, extremely limited. Whether from a curatorial perspective, whether from a executive perspective, the art scene was always there. The ecosystem has been always there. We have amazing artists. But the business side, or kind of the growth aspect of the arts and culture, was always kind of I would say in a gray area. So, like you said, Nawal, let's look at things and kind of the way that things were and the way things are today. A lot of what we do is very organic. We definitely don't. It's definitely not on purpose that we choose that a lot of our females or female leadership or leadership are female, but it's really about looking for amazing talent, and it so happens to be that most of them are female. Our curator, our artistic director, is a female this year, and her team is largely female as well. But we do have a lot of also male employees that are amazing as part of the team. But I do think that honestly, incorporating kind of the female aspect, whether they're moms or they're, it kind of really gives the dynamic a very different flavor. And for instance, for our public programs, which is a very important component at the biennial, which is an education, and kind of we talk to and we work with a lot of children, a lot of youth. One of our kind of leads was a female mother, and because she was a mom, it really worked out to our advantage, because she kind of really knew how to speak to the different mom groups, different age groups. We kind of curated exhibitions or small programs for these children, specifically with their moms, so that sometimes mothers can come at the same time with their children, kind of attend a program, leave together. So, these are little things that I feel like also add on to the overall idea. So, yeah.
I do know that you have a very unique look at diversity and inclusion and gender empowerment. So maybe if you could briefly let us know your approach when it comes to women empowerment and diversity and inclusion there. How would you define it?
So I think it's just about kind of incorporating, everybody in different ways. I think women, add a different perspective, I would say. So we, at the Biennale, as a foundation, we do a few things. We have a contemporary art biennial, an Islamic arts biennial, and a district called JAX, which kind of also sub-sectors into different, I would say, streams. So you have development, you have commercial, you have curatorial, which is a very important component. You have operations, and a lot of those teams are led by women, and they're kind of dealt with very differently. They're operated differently, and I feel like that's where the empowering component kind of surfaces.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's quite authentic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So we spoke about the responsibility of the non-oil sector, right? And the role of empowering youth and women and diversity and inclusion. And I think all of that kind of falls under environmental social governance efforts. Noting that ESG factors are essential for sustainable investing, fostering responsible business practices, and driving positive societal and environmental impact alongside financial returns. I would like to direct the next question to you, Nawal. At the Saudi Exchange has clearly been leading the way in putting corporate responsibility at the front and center of the kingdom's economic transformation as part of the ESG approach. So what do you think companies can learn from your experience in terms of supporting their own development?
Yeah, so I think working at the exchange and being, part of the core of a capital market, being the largest, most liquid stock market in the MENA region, we have an obligation to not only encourage our valued listed companies, and this is above 200 plus listed companies on the exchange, to practice ESG efforts, but we also need to lead by example. So the Saudi exchange is part of the United Nations sustainable exchanges. We are committed to the United Nations Sustainable Development Principles. And as part of this, we focus our ESG efforts on four main principles, two of which I'll touch on today. One is community and education. So we have developed 15 different initiatives across the organization to tackle ESG. And while looking at revenue and returns is really important, but companies really need to look beyond the balance sheet because that's where true value is created. Many investors, specifically institutions, as of now, and I believe more so in the future, will start to look at, and have already started to look at, each company's focus on ESG. There are indices that track this, there are specific investment firms that track this, and it's now become a significant investment factor to where people want to put their money.
I want you to repeat that.
Yeah. No, but this is also ESG,
Yeah,
so that's fantastic. So it's a significant factor where people decide to put their money. And what we've done at the Saudi Tadawul Group and Saudi Exchanges, we've developed ESG guidelines for our listed companies. So something that we found out when in our interaction with our issuers is that many of these companies, and these are your blue chips and your very well-known names, do fantastic ESG initiatives. But the problem is that the reporting mechanism that they're doing it is insufficient, and they're not getting their word out there. So our guidelines essentially help these companies to be able to disclose their ESG efforts and their annual reporting. We provide investor relations support for each of the companies to be able to know how to highlight these to their investors. And ultimately this translates into investments, this translates into foreign investment inflow, and this translates into Saudi being on the ESG map. Governance in Saudi Arabia is one of the top governance frameworks in the world. At the Saudi Exchange, we are focusing a lot on educating our market participants, including including the youth, including anyone who wants to be educated. We have a financial literacy program called Invest Wisely, and it's a program where we hold seminars that's provides a mix of both theoretical and practical models for people to understand how to invest. If I had $1 for every single time someone came up to me and said, "What stock should I buy?" I'd be a billionaire, because honestly, it's really an element where you need to place a lot of focus on enhanced financial literacy, and it's helpful for you, in developing yourself and in developing your financial stability as you grow. So we provide programs under our Invest Wisely program. We're also very active with universities. So we have a trading simulator where we place competitions with universities and hold different competitions within them so that the students can actually participate in a fun way and understand what it means to invest and get the hang of trading. So it's extremely important to tackle ESG efforts, and I think we're slowly but surely, and I think already have, started to see the value of this and will significantly moving forward.
No, absolutely. I'm very proud to hear of such initiatives taking place. I definitely do kind of struggle sometimes, and I feel like I wish I had that kind of, training growing up and in school. So we're definitely in the right direction, and thank you so much for the work that you lead. So when assessing the achievements and the challenges faced in the transformation process, one cannot neglect the impact of emerging technologies, especially artificial intelligence. Therefore, my next question is to you, Eugene.
Okay.
I was wondering if you could walk us through the impact of emerging technologies on, and what strategies are being adopted to adapt and innovate in an ever-changing global landscape.
Yeah. Um, Well, obviously, we've seen new technologies emerge almost at the speed of light over the last couple of years or the last decade. So within our company, we've embarked on a full end-to-end digitization of our total value chain. And I mean, what maybe not many people know is that PepsiCo is one of the largest food and beverage companies, but with that also, specifically with our foods business, we have a massive agricultural footprint. So what we've started to do is digitize our value chain from the field all the way to the consumer, and every step within that process. That obviously enables us to do a couple of things. One is, I think it's a critical enabler for us to drive a much more sustainable operation. So if we just start with agriculture, one of the things that we've started to deploy in Latin America, in India, and also in parts of Africa, is digitizing the way that our farmers grow their crops. That helps them minimize water usage, it helps them improve their yields. It also helps them minimize the use of fertilizers with the right set of fertilizers, etc. And then as you go further down that value chain, with consumers, ultimately it also helps us engage our consumers in a very relevant and personalized way. So digitization for us is an absolute key priority at PepsiCo. But it's also something that, of course, changes almost every single day. So we need to remain very agile in terms of the solutions that we deploy. We also need to, of course, understand that some solutions are maybe more adequate for emerging markets, whereas other solutions are more adequate for developed markets. So those are also trade-offs that we're making within our company. Now, as I then look at the let's say the population here in Saudi. So we talked about the demographics, 60% below the age of 30. And obviously that is a generation that has grown up largely digital. And if you look at the statistics, Saudi, and specifically the Saudi population, is the most digitally savvy population in the world. So I think that gives us lots of opportunities, but also comes with, I think, a required set of responsibilities in terms of how you leverage that digital technology. So I think our teams here in Saudi Arabia are engaging with the youth of Saudi in a very relevant way. And yeah, I look forward to continue, of course, investing in further digitizing operations here. I think the team here is doing a fabulous job on the ground and working through that value chain end to end. And of course, we cannot do that alone, so we're also looking at partners and further strengthening partnerships in our broader ecosystem to do that.
No, absolutely. I hear you. You know, we speak a lot about, I want to go back to what you mentioned, Aya, if possible. You did say that, arts and culture has always been there, present. Artists were always part of society. It's not just now that we are, the business side of it is, or the industry is being created, that artists came to exist. It's kind of interesting because it's not only something that we haven't heard of as an industry, but as it came to existence, it truly is leading the transformation, right? The power of arts and artists in the process of transformation is quite powerful. With that said, in your opinion, what is the role of your industry when it comes to youth empowerment and entrepreneurship and innovation? It's quite evident also, the Binali store and the way you just do things really touch upon so many different areas beyond just arts and culture, right? Like tourism as well. So walk us through that a bit more.
So Ragad, culture is inclusive, and that's all it is. And it's not only art per se; it's culture as a whole, and in all its sectors. And honestly, I think with the foundation and the biennials, what we do in terms of, like Eugene said, the Saudi population is actually very, tech savvy. It's very true, very, very true. And what we do is basically kind of tap into that. But what biennales actually do is, really, really kind of have so much impact. And it's not, our KPI it can't be something so only tangible. It's intangible impact. It's intangible impact. it's GDP and impact. You're creating jobs that never existed before, especially for the youth. So you have curatorial jobs, you have researchers, you have production, art production, you have technical production for artists, for artworks, you have artist liaisons. These are things that never existed, by the way, when I moved back to Saudi at all. And that kind of I would say that kind of organization kind of was a bit, I would say, tricky, to work with. But, youth is a very big part of it. And then what we try to do is obviously implement that throughout. So we implement that through, we have a really nice training program for our ushers when they start doing the biennials, because they're there for 4 months. They're taking 1 million people, so many people a day on these different tours, and for them they have to actually start understanding the works. They have to understand the curatorial component, the concept. Contemporary art isn't very easy. And it's always about the concept and the idea, less about the visuals or the aesthetic. So there's a learning curve that happens with every wave we work with, or every team we work with, and it's something that we want to keep on doing. With our store, we always wanted to kind of work with different creatives in the industry, not only artists, but artists, designers, web designers, product designers, people who work in merchandise, people who work in different sectors, to kind of really implement that as well. And we try to be as progressive as we can. So yeah, I think biennales as a whole, the reason for their existence actually is to also drive economy. It's to drive tourism. A cultural visitor or a cultural, a person coming only for culture as a tourist spends more money and spends more time in a city or in a location because they're coming for a cultural purpose. So you have the dwell time a little bit more. You want to go see an exhibition. You want to talk to the artist. You want to talk to the person and kind of have that kind of thought-provoking conversation. Then you want to go to the store, and then you want to go and you want to look into different other things that are happening in the city. So hopefully, what we want to do is kind of grow that across the city. So you're able to go to an exhibition and then go to the other and then go to the other and then add a food component here, add a merchandise component here, add a educational component here. So it's very inclusive. It's not only, kind of a linear journey where you're going to see only an exhibition and goodbye. It's a lot more than that. And that's what I really want to kind of make sure is very, very evident in the work we do.
Truly it is.
Thank you.
Let me tell you that. Thank you. Before we wrap up, I do want to ask a question to you, Ismail Radwan. I must ask you, what are some of the challenges faced during the implementation of Vision 2030? And how can we learn from these experiences as we aim to realize our way to 2040?
Well, thank you very much. So the first time I came to Saudi Arabia was in the year 2000. And we were working on Vision 2020 in those days. And of course, Saudi wanted to learn from Malaysia, so they brought Mahathir Mohamad here to advise on the Vision 2020. It was he who named it Vision 2020 because Mahathir Mohamad is an eye doctor. So when you have Vision 2020, you have perfect foresight. So, but I really remember very clearly being in a conference center across town here, speaking to 5,000 people, not a single woman in the audience. And we had questions, and at the end of the question, somebody said, well, does one of the women want to ask a question? And then we heard this voice on the address system, and apparently they were on the Princess Noura University campus and far away from where we are. And so now, a few years later, I find it tremendously inspiring to share the stage with 3 fantastic, accomplished, dynamic Saudi women who are driving this the change and the transformation in the kingdom. So I think...
Please go ahead.
and I think, one of the things that we've learned, I think, Nawal, you said very well, we set ourselves a target for 30%. We're now at 36%. And now we're going to set future targets, right? So I heard Eugene say 50% of the management team in Pepsico will be women. So that's not 50% of the employees, that's the management team. So that's a fantastic target to go for. Now, how did we achieve that in Vision 2030? We went out to find out what people's views were. We did opinion polling, and we found, yes, everybody wants women to drive, right? We found 95% of Saudis wanted women in the workplace. We only found 85% of Saudis supportive of women in management. So I think this is going to be one of the challenges as we go forward. How do we get more women into the workforce? How do we get more women into management? This is not just an issue that Saudi is facing, it's an issue that every country in the world is facing. Now, we have a great base in Saudi Arabia. 55% of the graduates in Saudi Arabia are women. And in STEM, we're 38% women, right? So this is much higher than many European countries. And again, so tremendous achievement. How do we get to the next step? What happens to these women when they graduate? Less than 1/5 actually go on to work in STEM jobs. So we would need to understand why they drop out, why they go to other jobs, why they don't join the labor force. And again, opinion polling, but understanding behavioral sciences. I think, Noel, you said the famous quote of Christine Lagarde, if Lehman Brothers had been Lehman Sisters. So everybody thinks that's a joke and they laugh. But there was a Finnish team of researchers that went out to find out whether this was actually true.
Oh.
And you can read this economic paper if you're interested. What they found was female-led banks are 7 times as robust as those with male leadership. So this is, I love the way you say go beyond the balance sheet, that's where the value is, but there's a lot of value in the balance sheet itself. And this is really an economic imperative, right? So we know that women form about 80% of the purchasing decisions at the household. So Pepsico, you want to sell your products, you're going to be selling to women. Sure. You need women to inform the strategy and inform the marketing and the communications. As Aya said, women bring something different, right? Men and women are not the same. They bring different attributes, different skills, different ways of collaborating, communicating. And when you combine those, that's what creates tremendous value for the company. So I think, there's plenty of economic articles that have been written about the value created by having women in management, having women on the boards as well of companies. So I think that's where we need to look, right? So women are driving now, women are working outside of the household, but not just driving cars, women are driving trains, not just any trains, the Hijazi train that goes to Mecca. Women are allowed to visit Mecca without a guardian. So, I mean, if you can visit the holiest place, you can visit anywhere in the kingdom, right? Yeah. So I think we've broken some of these barriers, and I think the sooner we ask these questions about how we can take the next step, the sooner we're going to have answers to this very, very important question.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time. To just wrap this fruitful discussion, I would like to wrap it up with something that everyone here could take with them, which is, we've discussed the challenges, opportunities we're facing, the introduction of technologies and artificial intelligence, and how that would change the job market. And as we are really committed to empowering youth empowerment and women empowerment in the process, what are the 3 skills that we need to invest in today to ensure that we are, everyone, really, and the new generation that is coming in and joining the job market are ready? So in 3 words, three words, what would they be? 3 skills. Okay. Please, Noel.
So just to keep it short, I would say financial literacy and technology literacy, being resilient and determined, and display flexibility and adaptivity.
In an ever-changing world, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think execution, because a lot of what we do is strategic, but it's a skill to take that from strategy to execution,
implementation,
or implementation or delivery. I would say, be open to thinking, be open to thought-provoking topics, and always wanting to learn about culture.
Curiosity.
So I would say in terms of the hard skills, skills in renewable energy and solar energy, wind energy especially, I think going along with Aya's execution skills, I think the management skills in general, very, very important, and soft skills around management.
Yeah.
And I think finally, AI. I think we heard yesterday from His Excellency Rumian on the importance of AI. People ask, oh, I've got some competition there. So is AI going to take my job? And the answer is no, but somebody who knows AI may take your job. So that's why we need to get more comfortable with the technology going forward.
Okay, well, it's clear that we're
Yeah,
at time.
it's clear.
So learning agility, I think, is number one. Number two is acquire and continue to acquire the required digital skills and sustainability skills. And then third, I would say, is a very strong set of human values. Focus on humanity, empathy, and compassion.
Well, thank you so much for your time. For our audience, please help me give them a warm
Thank you.
round of applause
Thank you,
for
Raghav. Thank you, everyone.
this discussion. It is very evident that we are truly rich by the talent of our people, by investing in our people, and the commitment is there. The harmony and the coordination between different sectors, is quite evident as we kind of march our way towards Saudi Vision 2030 and hopefully beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.